The third of these declarations that are being proposed is on biodiversity and climate change, biodiversity and the climate crisis. The Greens are probably the only party on the planet that really has as a fundamental principle that we want to protect and fight for biodiversity. If we don't do it, nobody else will. So I think this is a really important resolution for the future of the Earth, for the future of all the other living beings with which we share it. Biodiversity keeps the planet functioning. It's plants and animals, it's ecosystems that make the Earth habitable for all of us. If we don't protect what's left of our natural systems, we are all going to suffer. And from the climate perspective, emissions, that is greenhouse gases that are emitted from the destruction of natural ecosystems, is a very large part of the climate problem. Emissions, particularly from clearing and industrial logging of forests, are about 25, probably 30% of all of the emissions that are going up into the atmosphere. It is 25 or 30% of the problem. It has to be 25 or 30% of the solution. It has to get 25 or 30% of our attention and of the resources and attention of governments around the world. And that is our challenge. And that is something that nobody else, I think, is taking seriously, and which is not really getting properly onto the agenda in the international negotiating processes. I think in the workshop this afternoon, I hope we can really focus on how we are going to marshal our resources globally. We have here people from, obviously, Brazil, the Amazon, and the countries surrounding the great forests of the Amazon, also the great forests of the Congo, and of the Southeast Asian forests, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and so on. But it's not just tropical forests, it's also countries like Australia. 20 to 30% of Australia's greenhouse gas emissions are from logging and clearing of native vegetation, of natural forests and other natural vegetation. So let's, in our workshop, focus on action, focus on really understanding how the accounting for these emissions. And that's where we get into trouble with agrofuels, because we're not properly accounting for where the emissions are coming from, how much is going up in the air, and how much is being taken up back into the vegetation. We have to get our accounting systems right. We have to focus on the emissions from this source. We have to focus on how we protect and extend the natural areas which still exist. So that's the challenge for the workshop this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.